What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on Fett. On today's episode, it's San Diego Comic-Con 2024, so I'll be giving my thoughts on all of Hasbro's Star Wars reveals. Plus, I've got a couple of interesting Black Series pickups to review, and we'll do the drawing for the winner of my 100th episode contest. Let's get to it. Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 101 of Brett on Fett. Now, I've got some interesting Black Series pickups to show you today, including the Last Command 4-pack, part of that publisher series or comic book series as I like to call it. This thing is pretty awesome. Plus, I want to give you a quick review of the new Droid 4-pack for R5-D4, the Pit Droids, and the BD Droid. But before we get to those, the weekend I'm recording this video is also the San Diego Comic-Con 2024 weekend. And like always, Hasbro has a booth and they've done a panel where they've done a bunch of reveals. So I want to give my thoughts on all of the reveals for both the Vintage Collection and the Black Series from San Diego Comic-Con. So let's take a look at those. Okay, actually, before we get to the SDCC reveals, I want to quickly go through several products that Hasbro actually revealed earlier in the week. Just want to give my quick thoughts on them, starting with this Mandalorian Imperial base. This is that figure that they pipelined several months ago that I got really irritated about because it was basically the same Season 3 look Mando we had already gotten with the Mines of Mandalore Mando, except the only difference was he came with a Imperial Commando jetpack. I didn't understand that at the time. However, come to find out, they have updated this figure with the barbell hips, which is great. We need the barbell hips to get the maximum amount of poses out of this guy. I just wish they had gone ahead and taken care of that before they released the Mines of Mandalore version of Mando, because now it feels like that's kind of a wasted figure. I'm going to assume that the jetpack is interchangeable with his regular jetpack from the other figure, and so I'll probably just use that jetpack because I just don't really care about having this particular version of Mando where you put that jetpack on. Just not a big deal, especially considering we don't even have the Imperial Commandos in TVC yet. But this is going to be a superior version of Mandalorian, so I will be buying this. And I gotta admit, the card back is also pretty awesome. It's a little bit dark, but still pretty awesome. And by the way, it has been confirmed that the VC number for this figure is actually VC312A. So the Mines of Mandalore figure was VC312. And they've named this one VC312A, and I just don't understand that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that with this video. Probably revisit the VC numbering system in another video, but I'm just telling you that is not a consistent way to do it, given that this is a new figure. It's not a straight repack. It's also got a totally different card back as well. It's just really not consistent with how they've used A's in the past. Next, they revealed a new Bo-Katan. This is Bo-Katan Kryze Plaisir 15. It's basically her Season 3 look, and I think the only difference with this figure from the previous one is she's got the upgraded pauldron on her right shoulder, and they said they've upgraded the Darksaber so it's not as flimsy. So, this is by far, to me, the least exciting of the reveals they did the other day. The only saving grace for this release, in my opinion, is the awesome card back. This is a really cool card back. I love the original Bo-Katan card back. This one might be even better. Next up, maybe my favorite reveal of those pre-SDCC reveals we got a few days ago was this Mandalorian Shriek-Hawk 4-pack. I had no idea this thing was going to come in a special action figure set. I think that was a brilliant move to add a little more excitement to this. I think we all assumed this was going to come in the regular black and white army builder packs, and we just weren't too excited about this reveal when it was pipelined. More Mandos. We're all getting Mandoed out. I'm definitely getting close to being completely Mandoed out, but I have to admit, I like these. I think they do look great, and I love that packaging. I will definitely be picking this up. And then lastly, there was the reveal of the Moff Gideon's Imperial Light Cruiser Hallway. This is obviously a hallway playset, very similar to the Tanty 4 playset we've gotten, but this is kind of like the Imperial version. And although I wasn't necessarily bursting with excitement when I saw this, it is a solid set. It's every bit as good as the Tantive 4 as far as the quality, and maybe actually a little bit better. And I think it's going to be a great set for my Dark Troopers. I've been wanting to have something to set up my Dark Troopers with, possibly against Luke Skywalker, so I'll probably use this piece for that. Now, like the Tantive 4 set, this one also comes with a packed-in carded figure, but the figure they went with is this Mandalorian privateer, and I just thought that was a bit of an odd choice to come with this set. For example, the Tantive 4, that was Princess Leia's ship, and it came with a good guy, came with the Rebel Fleet Trooper, and so this one is an Imperial set, so I thought it should come with an Imperial character, possibly a Remnant Stormtrooper, maybe an updated one that uses the new Stormtrooper mold. To me, that would have made a little bit more sense. But it is what it is. I still think this is a very solid set, definitely picking this up. Alright, so now let's get to the San Diego Comic-Con releases and reveals. We'll go ahead and start with the Black Series. Now, you may have already seen this, but the SDCC exclusive Black Series product that you can get at the convention, it is this Episode 1 themed Darth Maul and Sith speeder set. Now, of course, we've got several Darth Mauls throughout the Black Series, but this is a really cool set. I know a lot of people have been wanting the Sith speeder, and it's got his little probe droid as well. So this is a really awesome set. Nice to see that Hasbro is at least doing something with the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary in the Black Series. I still have no idea why they are not acknowledging that anniversary in the TVC line, but I digress. And they revealed yet another Phantom Menace 25th anniversary product, that being the Stap with Battle Droid. Another very cool set. I know Black Series collectors are always wanting more vehicles in the line, and with the 6-inch scale, obviously you gotta go with smaller vehicles, and so a Stap is perfect. So I think this is a pretty cool release as well. Alright, next up they reveal the Ahsoka in her white outfit, or Ahsoka the White as a lot of people dub her, from the Ahsoka series, and she looks great. I think this is a really cool looking version of Ahsoka. And we'll see in a little bit that there's also going to be a TVC version revealed that is every bit as good. They also had a couple of Acolyte figures to reveal, starting with this Jedi Master Venestra Rho. And I think this is a very solid looking Jedi figure. I really like her robes. The face sculpt is spot on. And, personally, I just did not like this character in the show. She just really irritated me for some reason. And so, I just can't get rid of that association. But I have to admit, it does look like a very nice figure. And then they revealed Basil, the Jedi Order tracker. And I have to admit, this did bring a smile to my face. It's a very silly character, but he's pretty cute. And I think they did a really good job capturing his likeness with this figure. Here's a photo of the figure in person on the shelf at SDCC, taken by my friend Gary Moore, and you can see it does look really good. Not really my cup of tea, but I'm sure quite a few people will want to get this figure. Next, they revealed the Imperial Armored Commando. This guy looks awesome. I love the design of this figure. This is one of my top 25 most wanted figures for TVC. So I am jealous that they haven't even pipelined this for TVC yet. But I am a TVC collector that also buys the occasional Black Series figure, so I will be getting this one to tide me over until that Vintage Collection Imperial Armored Commando finally arrives. And they revealed a couple of new Andor series figures for Black Series, starting with Dedra Meero. This was such a great character on that show, so we definitely needed her in both lines. Happy to see that is happening, and she looks great. I don't see anything wrong with this figure. I think the likeness is pretty good. And then this one was a bit of a surprise. It's Cassian Andor himself from the Andor series, but this is from Season 2. So this is a Season 2 look that we have not even seen yet. So, good to see that Hasbro and Lucasfilm are working together on some of these to get a figure produced and ready in time for the actual show. I just wish they could do the same for the Vintage Collection. It seems like Black Series is always well ahead of the Vintage Collection when it comes to getting these new media characters released. But we all know this, it is what it is, and I guess us TVC collectors just need to accept it as the Black Series thing. We get play sets and vehicles, and the Black Series gets more new media characters and gets them faster. So there you go. And by far my favorite reveal for the Black Series at SDCC was this IG-12 and Grogu figure. This is an all new molded figure, and I think they did a great job. This looks fantastic to me. I think they nailed it. The way Grogu fits in there looks great. It doesn't look awkward. They even said it has articulated joystick controllers. I like how this thing opens up so you can get Grogu in and out. And it also comes with Anzellans, so you can put them in there as well. Just a very exciting release. This is a figure I've been really wanting, and I'm very skeptical they could make this work properly in the Vintage Collection 3 3/4 scale. I knew a Black Series one was going to be coming, and I think they nailed it, but again, the TVC version, I'm afraid it won't be able to do as good of a job with the articulation at the torso, you know, the ability of Grogu to get in and out, the articulated joysticks, that sort of thing. I just don't think they'll be able to achieve that in 3 3/4 scale. I think it would probably be static, and even Grogu may even be molded into the body, and that just wouldn't work for me. So we'll see. I really hope I'm wrong. Maybe they can simply take this design and scale it down and make it all work in 3 3/4 scale. That would be great. But until then, this one's going to tide me over. Really looking forward to this IG-12 figure. And finally, for the Black Series, they introduced some pretty awesome pipeline reveals, starting with Kalnaka, the Jedi Wookiee, one of the more interesting characters from that series in my opinion, so that should be pretty cool. Then you had Moff Gideon in his Mandalorian armor. That is going to make an awesome looking figure that they better give us in TVC as well soon. Same goes for the next reveal, which is the Moff Gideon Praetorian Guard. I thought those guys looked awesome, so very excited. We're getting in a Black Series, and I hope that means we're also getting them in TVC, because that's where I want them. I need a bunch of those guys to take on my TVC Paz Vizsla. Next, they revealed that Black Series will also be getting that Anakin Skywalker in his Clone Wars uniform, as seen on the Ahsoka series, so exciting release for the Black Series fans there. As well as the Phase 1 Rex from Ahsoka. Of course, they had to screw up the picture. They used the animated version. This is going to be the live action version of Phase 1 Rex from Ahsoka, so that's going to be a cool one. Then there is my favorite Black Series pipeline reveal, and that is Commander Bakara from Episode 3. That is going to be awesome. I love the design of Bakara. I hope we get him in TVC as well. I think that's going to be a great release for the Black Series, and curious to see if the Galactic Marines will follow. Then another awesome pipeline reveal is the BX Droid Commando from the Clone Wars. You guys know I love droids, and I think this is going to be a good one. The BX is probably one of my favorite droid designs from the Clone Wars, and so very excited to see what they do with this one, and hopefully we'll get one in TVC as well. And finally, a really interesting reveal, that being Prince Caesar from Shadows of the Empire. Now this figure was actually leaked in a photo that Yakface posted. Weren't sure if it was going to come to fruition, but obviously it is. And what's cool about this is that means they're willing to explore other parts of Star Wars Legends. Now personally, I'm not a big Shadows of the Empire guy. I never played the game, but I know it has a huge following. I know a little bit of the lore, and it seems really cool. So I'm very excited that those fans are going to get this thing, and it probably means we're going to get at least 3 or 4 other characters in the Black Series to go along with him. And hopefully it also means we're going to get some releases like that in TVC as well. But very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Shadows of the Empire. All right, switching over to the Vintage Collection reveals, we finally got a look at several figures that were previously pipelined. We'll start with the Ahsoka series with the live action version of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Pretty decent looking card back. Now the figure itself appears to be a straight reuse of the Rebels Thrawn with just a new head. And that head sculpt is great. It looks really good. Very good likeness to the actor. I'm always very pleased with how well they can capture that likeness in a sculpt for 3 3/4 these days. But one thing I'm a bit disappointed with this reveal is that the live action Thrawn, his uniform is old and dirty. It's kind of worn down, but it doesn't appear they've added any type of weathering to his uniform at all from the Rebels version. This thing looks completely clean to me. So I was hoping for just a tad bit of weathering to the uniform. I knew they would reuse that mold, just wanted a little bit of weathering. And here's a photo of Thrawn up close and personal on the shelf, and you can see that head sculpt just looks fantastic, so I'll take it. And sticking with the Ahsoka series, we got a look at the new Ahsoka Tano Peridia figure, aka Ahsoka the White. really good looking card back. They always do a great job of capturing Ahsoka in a good pose on these card backs. And I think the figure looks outstanding. I think the paint apps look really good. Obviously, there's a lot of reuse from the previous Ahsoka. I heard they lengthened her Leku a bit to be more screen accurate. And overall, I think she looks great. I love the paint job, like I said. I think it turned out really well. Very pleased with this version of Ahsoka. And here's a look at her in person on the shelf, and you can see she looks great. Next up, we got a look at another Gaming Greats figure. This is the Jetpack Trooper from Jedi Survivor. I actually really like the card back on this one. That is a very cool image of that trooper with some really neat looking lighting. And this is a solid looking figure. I'm sure there's some reuse from the latest Stormtrooper mold, but his respirator tubes and that little respirator box on his chest all look good. I like the pauldron on the left. So I think this is a nice trooper to go with the rest of your Imperials. And here's a photo of him in person on the shelf, and I actually think he looks better in person than he does in the promo images. So yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty good figure. Next up, a highly anticipated reveal for me personally, and that is the Blurg with the Mandalorian. This looks like a great set. They put it in that same packaging that they've used for like the speeder bikes, for example. And the mold of the Blurg looks fantastic. I had a good feeling they were going to do a good job with this one, and yeah, they nailed it. And it's got a new Mando figure that has the barbell hips, and you're going to need that to properly ride this Blurg. The fans have been wanting a Blurg for a very long time, and apparently Hasbro's been planning this for a very long time because they even made a prototype to scale when they were developing the Razor Crest to make sure it would fit inside the Razor Crest. So that's good to hear. Glad we're finally getting this. I wish Hasbro hadn't taken quite this long, but it's going to be great. My only question is if Queel can actually ride on top of them. I'm guessing he probably won't be able to because he probably can't get the legs around the saddle. So I'll probably just have to display him next to the Blurg. Of course, the set will come with the new carded Mando, and it's going to be named the Mandalorian Arvala 7. Great image of him riding the Blurg. So this is going to be a really good set. I will be getting two so I can keep one of those Mandos on card, and I'll pose Queel with the other extra Blurg. And here's a look at those guys in person. As you can see, they look great. Can't wait to get this one. Next, we got another playset revealed. This is the Armorer's Forge, and I was wondering when they pipelined this if it was going to be from Season 1 Mandalorian or the Season 3 version, and it is the Season 3 version where she sets it up in that cave. I think I would have personally preferred they had done the Season 1 covert version of the Forge. I just thought there was some more interesting scenes and more action happening around that version of the Forge in Season 1, but that's just a personal preference. I'm sure enough people like the cave version. It comes with her cabinet of tools, plenty of accessories. Of course, they had to throw a Grogu in the set. You can't have a Mandalorian set without a new Grogu. I think it's basically Hasbro law. Maybe it's Lucasfilm law. I think we're up to about 58 Grogus now for the Mandalorian. You could just line them up or start a clone army of Grogus. And maybe my favorite part of all of this is the new version of the Armorer because she has the cloth goods pelt on her shoulders. That looks great. We've been needing that. I always thought it was strange that the Retro Collection version of the Armorer had that awesome cloth goods pelt, but the Vintage Collection did not. That just didn't make any sense. The Vintage Collection is supposed to be the cream of the crop for 3 3/4. So glad that Hasbro took the opportunity to fix that. And here's a look at the card back. Awesome looking image of the Armorer. Unfortunately, it looks like the bubble will be overlapping over her picture, which kind of sucks, but you know, it happens sometimes. It can be difficult to get the right picture you want for the card back. You're not going to make a wider card back just because of the image. And here's a look at the play set in person on the shelf, and it looks good. I don't see any issues with this at all. I think it will be a solid set for most collectors. And finally, for TVC product reveals, one of the most anticipated figures in a long time for TVC is cobbvanth. So they finally revealed what he's going to look like, and he looks great. I love the weathering on his armor. This reminded me that we still need the Tython version of Boba Fett where he's wearing that armor. So hopefully the fact that they've got this molded and weathered up will be leveraged for a Tython Boba Fett. As we've come to expect, the head sculpt looks fantastic. I particularly like the hairdo, but the likeness to the actor is there as well. So very happy with the way the look of this figure turned out. But perhaps my favorite part of this product reveal was the confirmation from Hasbro that they are doing away with the deluxe boxes and going back to carded figures. Going to be doing an extra wide bubble with a extra wide card back, similar to how they did the Mandalorian Maldo Kreese. So this is fantastic news for carded collectors such as myself. myself. Now I'll be buying 2 of these products instead of 1 because I'm going to keep 1 carded and I'm going to want 1 open. And I just think this works. I don't mind the extra card back width. That's not a big deal to me, as long as I get that vintage style card back and I can see the product in a bubble. And here's a look at Cobb in person on the shelf, and of course he looks fantastic. I just really like the weathering on that armor. It looks great. Now all we need is a Book of Boba Fett version of Cobb without the Boba Fett armor, and we need cobbvanth's speeder bike. That thing is awesome. It will make an excellent TVC vehicle. And we'll wrap up with the pipeline reveals for the Vintage Collection. They start off with a couple of Acolyte figures, beginning with Jedi Master Indara and followed by the Jedi Yord. They gave us Soul, so they might as well give us the rest of the main Jedi from the series. Let's just hope they actually give us the Stranger, the villain, because he was arguably the coolest character on the show. Then I was really happy to see that they are giving us a Dedra Meero from Andor. Great character. They had already announced that Black Series was getting her, and so very good news and a relief that we will get her for TVC. We need more Andor characters to go with the few they've given us from that series. And it's a great show, so I think it deserves more characters be developed into TVC figure. Now hopefully this means they'll be giving us a new female-bodied uniform officer figure and not trying to reuse the male uniformed officer figure. That would be terrible. But I think they will do a female uniform officer figure, and that will open up opportunities for other characters such as Juno Eclipse from Force Unleashed. Next up, they revealed yet another version of Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, this being the outfit he's wearing at the very end of the finale. And I have to admit, this is my favorite look of Kenobi from the show, so I'm actually pretty happy they're making this. It's not something that would be on any priority list for me, but if they're gonna make it, I'll take it. Hopefully his goggles will be a wearable accessory and not molded to his collar. Next up, just like the Black Series did on their pipelines, they announced a Phase 1 Captain Rex from the Ahsoka series. So this is the live action version of Rex, and this should be a pretty cool figure. I kind of like the Phase 1 version of Rex slightly better anyways, so I'll happily take this one. Now this next one is perplexing to me. They announced the live action version of the Mandalorian Super Commando, or I guess Super Commando Captain, and I'm just not sure why we needed this when we already have that Mandalorian Super Commando Captain. Yeah, it's from Clone Wars appearance, but the live action version looks basically the same to me. So I don't know how different this is going to be. You know, maybe it'll be a barbell hips version, which is fine, but just not exciting. When I first saw this picture pop up, I got real excited because I thought maybe they were going to give us a Gar Saxon. I quickly realized, no, that's not Gar Saxon. I'm still wanting a Gar Saxon figure. It would be so easy for them to do. I really wish they'd have done that instead of this, but it is what it is. We'll see how this turns out and how it's going to be different than the TVC figure we already had. And by far, the most exciting pipeline reveals we got for the Vintage Collection was that we're finally getting Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati from the Ahsoka series, 2 extremely wanted characters in the Vintage Collection line by the fans. Not sure why it took so long just to get these pipelined. These should already be in development and there should be product reveals for these figures by now. But it is what it is. At least we're getting them. At least we know Hasbro is listening to us and knows that these are important figures. Hopefully these will be all new molds. I'm sure they will. And hopefully they get the scale right and don't make the same mistakes that were made by the Black Series. So overall, I think this was a pretty successful SDCC panel for Hasbro. We got some exciting product reveals that I'm happy with, and we got some interesting pipelines. That's pretty much all I can ask for. All right, next we're going to jump over to some Black Series pickups. Now this is not a pickup, this is my Heir to the Empire Luke that was released through the Black Series publishing line. Of course, Heir to the Empire is the first book of the original Thrawn trilogy, and the second book is Dark Force Rising, so they put out this marajade, an awesome figure that came in this really cool Dark Force Rising packaging. And now to complete the trilogy with the third book of the original Thrawn trilogy, The Last Command, and they've done it in this enormous 4-pack. This thing is pretty awesome. Let's take a look at the packaging. This is a beautiful, beautiful box. The colors are super vibrant. I love the artwork. And again, this is a 4-pack, so it's got several characters: Luke Skywalker, luuke, jorruscbaoth, and marajade. And of course, I love the artwork all around the packaging with the colors on the front and back, and then they do that black and white on the spine and the top and bottom. They just look great. I love these little images taken from the comic book version of the novels. It's very consistent with the regular releases, just on a larger scale. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful box. By the way, I'm going to ICCC again this year, and timothyzahn is going to be there, so I may have him sign this box because it's just so nice looking. Let's open this thing up and take a look inside. You've got Velcro on the top and bottom. Great looking display here. Let's first take a look at the panel on the left. You've got a short summary of the story there on the right, and more awesome images taken from the comic book version of the story. Let's take a look at these figures, starting with Luke. This is basically a repack of the Return of the Jedi Luke we already got. Marajade is also a repack, except she has that alternate head that actually should have come with that Dark Force Rising release, since that's how we see her on the cover. Then there's luuke, who is, of course, the evil clone of Luke Skywalker. And check out that face sculpt. That is awesome. He looks like a complete psychopath. So I'm really digging that. And then the star of this pack is clearly jorruscbaoth. He looks fantastic. Check out that head sculpt and the molded beard. It's got a combination of plastic and soft goods. It looks like he's wearing those sandals. Really impressed with that Jorrus figure. Now, I am not going to open this and take the figures out. I want to keep everything sealed on this release. But if you do want to see a full review of each individual action figure from this set, go check out the YouTube channel, The Force is with Jesse. Jesse is down under in Australia, and he has a great channel, and he actually got this Last Command set really early. I want to say over a month ago, he put out a video reviewing those figures, and it's a great review, so go check it out. But overall, this Last Command set is a fantastic release, especially for inbox collectors, because it just displays so well. I'll probably put it next to my Thrawn SDCC exclusive. They're relatively similar size boxes, although this one is actually a couple of inches taller than the Thrawn release. Now, that all being said, this is an expensive set, and I really hope they do another release of jorruscbaoth as a single release on a Last Command regular size box to go with the Heir to the Empire and the Dark Force Rising, so they can all three sit together on a shelf, and that way more people can access the jorruscbaoth figure at a more affordable price. All right, next up, my pre-order came in for this droid set from The Mandalorian. This, of course, has R5-D4, 2 pit droids, and BD-72. Here's a look at the packaging. This is the older style now. The new Black Series package is getting rid of that slanted box. Let's get these droids out of the packaging and take a closer look. All right, so here are all the figures out of the box, and as you can see, the only accessories that come with this all belong to R5-D4. This is similar to how the new R2-D2 comes with a bunch of attachments. However, several of these are different than what R2 has. Now let's take a closer look at R5 himself. This is a repack. There was a single release of this droid, which I passed on because I knew this pack with the other droids was coming. And it looks good. This is the new mold. You know, it's very similar to what we see with the R2-D2, just a different head, basically. And he looks great. This is a great astromech mold they're using these days. There's the little door that opens up where you can stick on the different attachments. We'll grab one just to demonstrate there in case you aren't familiar with these new astromech Black Series figures. And the third leg is retractable, and you can also pop up the head. It has this neat feature on the neck where you can remove this and actually store all of the attachments. So if you weren't aware of that from the other releases of these astromechs, it is a great feature with these. And we'll just demonstrate his fly mode accessories. It very easily pops off there. You can place the panels. You got the little fire effects there. I'm not a big fan of these with my astromech, especially if you don't have a flight stand to go with. So I'll just keep those off. But he looks great. Very happy with the R5-D4. So let's check out those pit droids. We'll go over how they look first. And there is the brown one. He's got a little bit of tan around the rim of his head. Looks pretty cool. There is multiple colors here. It's not all one solid brown color, so that's nice. And then there's the tan one. I like the look at this one. Again, he has a ring around with a little different color. And then his right lower leg is actually a different color, so that's interesting. So he's like got another part that's been replaced over time. So yeah, he looks really good too. I think these are fun looking pit droids. And let's take a look at the BD figure. And I gotta say, I think he looks a little bit soft. I thought the features on this guy would be a little cleaner. And to me, it almost seems like they took the TVC one that came with Cal Kestis and just kind of blew him up. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it just seems like, especially looking on at the front, the features just don't look quite sharp enough as I would hope. But let me know in the comments if you see what I mean or if you disagree. Let's run through the articulation of the pit droids. It's got a lot of points of articulation. There's kind of a ball joint there at the head with a hinge at the mid neck and where the neck connects to the shoulder. So plenty of articulation there. And looking at the arm, got a ball socket at the shoulder, which is good. So it gives plenty of motion there. There is a hinge at the elbow. So you get full range there. And then you got a swivel at the wrist. It just swivels, there's no hinge movement. Looking at the torso or at the crunch, you've got a swivel joint there that gets like 90 degrees basically, at least going forward. And then you actually have a ball socket at the hips, which is great. You can get full range of motion with the legs on that. You've got a pretty standard hinge there at the knee with plenty of motion range. And then you've got a kind of standard hinge at the ankles, but it does allow you to rotate the feet around as well. So I'm going to try to crunch this thing up into a ball. I don't know that we'll be able to get them in the manner that you see the pit droids when they collapse, but maybe we can get it pretty close. Now, I just discovered I almost missed this additional hinge at the elbow. So there's actually 2 hinges at the elbow to really get those arms folded up. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to see how tightly I can get this pit droid rolled up into a ball. And that is not too bad. Again, not the way they look when they completely collapse in the film, but still pretty neat that you can wind them up into a ball that tightly. Let's take a look at the articulation on the BD droid, and it's pretty basic. You got like a ball socket there where the neck meets the head. The legs have 2 points of articulation, so you can rotate them at the hips, and then you can fold in at the knees. And so that works well enough for such a small droid. The antennas are static, however, they don't rotate. They're just sticking out there and they're kind of bendy. All right, so there's your look at the articulation for these droids. So overall, I think this is a fun set. I wouldn't recommend getting this if you already have an R5-D4. I don't think it's worth purchasing both, to be honest with you. But if you haven't picked up the R5, I would definitely get this one because the pit droids are fantastic. I am a little disappointed with the quality of the BD droid. I think they could have done a little bit better on him. But the R5-D4 and the pit droids more than make up for any lapses in the BD droid. And so overall, I'm very happy I picked up this set. All right, so now it's time to do my giveaway from my 100th episode contest. Just to remind everybody, the prize is the Enoch figure, loose complete. It was an extra Enoch I had from buying multiple Night Trooper sets. And I'm also going to throw in 3 other loose complete random mystery 3 3/4 figures as well. And also a reminder, in order to be eligible for this contest, you had to be a subscriber, you had to like my last video, my episode 100 video, and you had to leave a comment on that video with the hashtag #IWantEnoch. And so to pick the winner, I'm going to copy the address of the episode 100 video. And I'm going to use commentshark.com again. I used this the last time I did a contest and it worked pretty well. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to paste the address of my episode 100 and then it pops up. There it is, episode 100. Got 92 comments. I'm going to choose unique authors only. So you can't leave multiple comments with the "I want Enoch" phrase and expect to get multiple chances to win, of course. And I'm going to only pick one winner. I'm going to go to advanced options. I'm going to do a text search. And I'm going to put in the hashtag #IWantEnoch. So it only chooses comments that added that hashtag. And I'm going to hit pick a random YouTube comment. Let's see what happens. Dun, 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 dun. All right, and the winner is at ERD9988. Congratulations on the milestone, hashtag #IWantEnoch. Thank you, ERD9988. Congratulations, you are getting a free Enoch figure and 3 random mystery figures. So what I need you to do next is to reach out to me. The best way might be to find me on Instagram at Brett_on_Fett. You can direct message me, let me know that you are the winner. And I do have ways of verifying that you are legit, by the way. And if you're not on Instagram, you can go ahead and reach me by email, which is brettonfett, all one word, @gmail.com. So hit me up, ERD9988. Let me know you're the winner. I'll get your information and I'll get your prize shipped to you as soon as I can. Thanks for playing. Thanks for being a subscriber, and I hope you enjoy your figures. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments what you think of the SDCC 2024 reveals. Thanks for checking out this video. Thanks as always to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram. Take care, and we'll see you next time.